Hey guys, Stucky here. You ever wanted to try the best version of the Action Network app? Well, now is the perfect opportunity to do so because we have a special offer to celebrate the month of March and the NCAA tournament. You can get pro access for just $9.99 for the first month. That will give you access to things like Sean Kerner's player prop projections, which are invaluable, real-time money percentages, and our model's biggest edges, and much more. All you have to do is head over to actionnetwork.com/madness. That's actionnetwork.com/madness and get there before the deal expires. Cheers. Let's start with the Big Ten 14 teams. This will be played in Minneapolis. Top four get double byes. That's Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Nebraska. 5 through 10 seeds get single byes. Indiana actually finished with the 6th seed. And big conglomerate of teams in that in the middle of the Big Ten standings. And then you have, I guess, the first rounder playing games. Maryland will take on Rutgers. Penn State will take on Michigan. Purdue is the favorite here at around even money, which I have as about fair. You have Illinois at about 3-1. As always, shop around. I'm just going based off of one book here. Nebraska, Wisconsin at 11 to 12-1 range. Michigan State 14-1. Northwestern 20-1. Ohio State, a surging Ohio State team, 30-1. Iowa 33-1. Indiana 40-1. Then you get into some longer shots. Some housekeeping injury questions. Maryland, Julian Reese, who is obviously super important for them. He's got to play, and then, I mean, they're not a threat to win this thing, but just as far as your betting is concerned, and he's got to stay out of foul trouble when he does play. He did warm up yesterday, but I guess, I mean, they weren't really playing for anything, but he didn't play. So just keep an eye on his status. Nkamwu out for the year for Michigan. Mag for Rutgers. He matters. He hasn't played. Clary was dismissed for Penn State. And then Northwestern, you have Ty Berry out for the year. Matthew Nicholson dealing with an injury as well. Hasn't played the last few. When I look at this bracket, the first team, Northwestern with Boo Buie at 20-1, they're the 4 seed. You might say, wow, they have a double bye. No, thank you. I know they play Purdue tough, but with all the injuries they're dealing with and the lack of depth, you're gonna have to win 3 games in 3 days. It's just not a team that I'm personally looking to back. And they're in that top half with Purdue. I think Nebraska at 11, 12-1-ish is intriguing to me. Since February 1st, 9-1, been a top 10 team per Torvik. Second in overall adjusted defensive efficiency. Their defense is playing really well. They've also added just like some road wins, and not the best road wins, but they've been playing better away from home. Plus, they're deep for 3 games in 3 days. Won't bother them at all. So, for a team that's the 3 seed on the other half of the bracket of Purdue, their path, would be Indiana, presumably, and then Illinois, Iowa, or Ohio State. They took Illinois to overtime in Champaign, and Illinois, they still have defensive questions. Their offense is explosive. They're going to have to deal with, they match up pretty well with Iowa, as we've seen, but, it's Iowa and Ohio State, 2 desperate teams. Whoever wins that game, and 2 teams that have played a bit better down the stretch, especially Ohio State. That's not a walk in the park for them. And one of the most important things that Nebraska does is they keep you out of transition. 3% through third percentile nationally in transition frequency allowed. That's so important against Illinois. Illinois is deadly in transition. Shannon is just a walking bucket whenever he can get out and run, and Nebraska just doesn't let you do that. So, yeah, I think Nebraska at, the way that they're playing right now, their draw, I think 11, 12-1, they're the team. I make them fair, like 9, 9.5-1. So I show value in the number 2. They're the team I'm looking at. Greg, this is your wheelhouse, the Big Ten. So here's how I'll have you guide us through this. 11 through 14 seeds that would have to win 5 games in 5 days. Maryland, Rutgers, Penn State, Michigan. We can throw all of them out, right?
Yes.
Wow.
There's one I'm not throwing out, Stuck, and it's the team you alluded to, Julian
All
Reese's.
right, so we do have a Powerball. We have a Powerball section. Powerball
Okay.
ticket.
Okay.
So who's your
Yeah, yeah,
power?
yeah.
So who's the potential Powerball?
The Powerball for me is Maryland. Now Reese's injury hangs over this team for sure, but you're looking for a team from that first group that you see a path to win maybe 3 straight, and then it's anyone's guess from there, right? I will put the caveat on this. You're not going to hear me talk about this tournament and advise that you truly believe anyone wins this. This isn't Purdue. This is the Purdue Invitational. They are so much better than every other team in this league. Get them at even money. I have that as great value. I don't think they lose a game in this tournament. So if you're betting anybody else, you're looking for, let's get value on them to make the semi and then find ways to hedge and make sure you cover your bases on either side, which makes it harder to back the middle of the pack. Like Illinois 3-1, not worth it for me. Nebraska, I do like your call. I think they have a great draw and more on another team I could see coming out of that region or that side in just a little bit. But from the first 4 seeds, to me, it is Maryland because it would be a very similar path to what we saw Ohio State do in this tournament last year, where they opened the tournament in the very first game, won 3 straight, got to Purdue in the semi. That was a competitive basketball game for the first 35 minutes before they ended up falling apart late. This Maryland team on paper is top 4, top 5 minimum in talent, and they've underachieved all season. There's no, no way around it. This team does not have enough shooting. That roster is not going to fix itself overnight, but they still have a superstar. They still have Jameer Young, who is one of the 5 best players in this league. And in a single elimination game setting, that matters. Their path right now is going to be Rutgers, likely without Mawat Mag, who has been horrendous down the stretch run of the season. Their most recent game to end the year was the most underwhelmed I've been with Rutgers. They've lost 6 of their last 7. They just got pieced up by 22 points to Ohio State at the rack. Like, I think this is an automatic win for Maryland in round 1. Then you get a Wisconsin team that, has there been a worse team in the country over the last month and a half than Wisconsin? They were on the 2 line at one point. They've won 3 games since February 1st. To me, they're safely in the tournament. They're not desperate. Maryland's playing for their tournament lives. I think that's a great draw. And then you're talking, if they get to the quarterfinal, it's a Northwestern team who's missing 2 starters that once again is in the NCAA tournament, even with a loss in the first game. They're not playing for anything. I think this opens up very, very well for a Jameer Young superstar run. He's going to have to get 30 points a game. These are going to have to be grinded out ugly games. But
Which they
Maryland's
will be. Maryland Rutgers, Maryland Wisconsin, Maryland Northwestern. Those are
yeah,
like 58, 55, which is what you want for a long shot, low possession, high variance games, which they'll get through the first 3 rounds, no matter who they play.
it's exactly what Maryland wants. And until the last month, this was a top 5 defense in the country. It's fallen off a little bit. It's now ranked 11th per KenPom. But man, you go through, this team's lost a bunch of games lately. It hasn't been because they're getting blown out or haven't showed up like some of these other teams. Like, you're talking a 5-point loss to Illinois, 4-point loss at the Kohl Center to Wisconsin, 7-point loss to Northwestern. I think this team's right there. I think they're going to make a little bit of a run. Now, again, that all ends when you get Purdue, and they are on Purdue's side of the bracket. They'd have to see them in the semi, but if you can get them at a really good price early, I think you could have some value late and cover your bases.
Yeah, no, I actually don't hate that at all. As a super launch, and even all throughout league play, they lost to Ohio State in double overtime. They lost to Rutgers by 3, Michigan State by 2, Northwestern by 3, Minnesota by 3, Illinois by 5. They're in almost every game. And I believe that Reese will play. I think that it was the last regular season game. They're not, they have to win the Big Ten tournament. They were probably just being cautious, and he did go through warmups. I thought he was going to play. So I would assume that he'll play. And then hopefully he stays out of foul trouble. So I don't hate that from a long shot perspective. Anyone in the second tier, which would be teams playing on Thursday with the single bye, Michigan State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana, that catch your eye, or anything you want to mention there?
Yeah, there is. I like Indiana from that tier, and I see them at 80-1 right now. I think that's incredible value for a team that has just won 4 consecutive games. They're playing well right now. All the rumors of a mass exodus for Mike Woodson have seemingly been pushed aside here because they lost Liam McNeely, their big recruit. You're thinking, oh, okay, every player on this roster is going to leave. They announced Woodson's coming back next year, and all the rumors said no one wants to play for him. Well, they're playing their best basketball. They literally look like a completely different team. The biggest reason why has been Mackenzie Mbako is a dude right now. He's the 5-star that they had at the beginning of the year that was promised. It really took him 3 months to get his feet under him. Right now, he finally looks comfortable. He's shooting the ball with confidence. He's getting the 3-point attempts up, which were not present through the first 2 months of the season. And they're winning. Like they've been convincing, in my opinion. They jumped out to a big lead on Michigan State before, letting them hang around. There were some, I don't know, injury stuff there, right? Trey Galloway went out. I think if Trey Galloway doesn't go down for Indiana in the first half of that game, they probably win it comfortably. But before that, man, 2 straight road wins at Maryland, at Minnesota. They went to the barn and spanked Minnesota last week. I think they're playing really well. And draw is the important thing for me here. They are in the same pod that Nebraska is. You talked about how Nebraska has a decent path here. You avoid Purdue until the championship game. Michigan or Penn State, whoever wins that game, it's likely going to be Penn State. That's not something I think you'd have to sweat on. Although I will say Penn State beat Indiana twice this year. To me, I view that angle much more as it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think the way Indiana's playing right now would be a little revenge factor. Okay, we want to see them. I think if you're going to bet anybody from this side of the bracket, it makes sense for it to be Indiana or Nebraska. Take your pick, which you like more. I think you're getting significantly more value at the number with Indiana, but Nebraska, I'm with you, Stuck. I think they have a path, right? And if there is one team in this draw that I think is not going to be afraid to see Purdue, maybe wanting another chance at Purdue, I think it's Nebraska, who gave them the most impressive performance any opponent's given Purdue this year. I mean, they blitzed them in Lincoln. You can't convince me that Illinois wants to see Purdue again. I think that's hanging over this. They lost 2 straight games against them this year. They tried to make it Illinois versus Purdue mentally. There's a caliber difference there that's not there. I think that pod between Indiana and Nebraska is the spot to target. Take your pick who you like more. I'll put my money on Indiana at the number 80-1 just because I think it's great value.
Yeah, and then you can also hope for, I mean, Nebraska does have a really good post defense, like the way that they play schematically, which is huge against Purdue, and Northwestern does a really good job if they have Nicholson back, of trapping bigs, and they've given Purdue some problems. So maybe there's a chance that they pick off Purdue. You'd have to have Boo Boo, you just go bananas, but that's just something. I don't think it's likely, but it's something that could work in your favor if you take some of these bigger numbers in the bottom half. But I think, Nebraska, it's not the worst matchup in the world if they get to the final and face Purdue, and you would have a juicy ticket anyway. But I agree. I think with Purdue's dominance, you want to target that bottom half, or take a lottery ticket on, say, Maryland, which I don't hate, but you want to target the bottom half, and Illinois at their price just has no value at under 3-1, and they're going to struggle to stop Edey and Purdue at the rim no matter what, or just give up a ton of open threes trying to cover there. I don't think it's a great matchup for Illinois, and I just don't see any value in the number. Calabrese, let me go to you. What are you seeing in the Big Ten?
You guys are so thorough. I had all my notes on Nebraska. I was like, I can't wait to bring them to the table. I'm going to have some interest. And then you hit every single note. The only one that you left on the table for me, you alluded to them playing Purdue so well at home. But beyond that, they also held Edey to 15-7, which is essentially like holding him lower than any other team this entire season. So I understand the game flow, by the second half, it was a runaway. Still, holding him to 15-7 is so incredibly impressive. And when you look at their path, when you talk about Indiana, they killed them twice, and they took Illinois to overtime in Champaign. So I agree with all the points here. I had it circled if I could get it better than 8-1. You're saying it's 11 or 12-1 in the market. Cornhuskers for me. I'm going with them.
Greg, anything else you wanted to add in the Big Ten? Is Michigan State? Can they give Purdue a scare? mean, Minnesota's fading. I would assume that they win that game. I watched that last Michigan State Minnesota game. Michigan State was in control of that game, and then Walker got hurt, and he went out for like 7-8 minutes, and Minnesota made a run. But Minnesota's fading quick. So Michigan State, do they have any chance against Purdue?
In a word, no. I am fading Michigan State pretty hard at this point in the year, and I don't even think it's cool to fade them anymore. I think it was a month ago, but now everybody's caught on. Tyson Walker's just hurt. That's all this is. He has a serious groin injury, and everyone knows that without him shooting 20 times a game, playing 38 minutes, this offense just doesn't have enough answers in the half court. They have total non-factors at center. They don't have enough shooting. I mean, the one thing they do well in a half-court setting is shoot threes. They make 36% of them, but they're in the 300s in three-point attempt rate. And Tom Izzo's hitting the podium complaining that they shot too many threes against Indiana. It's insane. I don't know how they expect to win games shooting so many fadeaway, tough two-pointers from Malik Hall and a hurt Tyson right now. They did get gifted Minnesota, who eye test-wise, something is seriously wrong with them. I think a month ago they would have been kind of the darling pick here in Minneapolis. You want to think the home crowd could boost them, and they played really good ball through January and February. Something's off here. They've lost 4 of their last 5 in blowout fashion. The one win, they were down 41-18 at home to Penn State. This is not the team they were a month ago. There's heavy rumors that Dawson Garcia has made himself very available in the transfer portal and is already seeking some offers. I think that locker room's blown up a little bit. So I do think Michigan State wins that first game, but no, I do not think it's going to be overly competitive no matter who wins against Purdue.
Yeah, and if you're considering Michigan State as a future, Walker dealing with a groin injury and them needing to beat Purdue and win 4 games in 4 days, not ideal.
No.
To say the least. All right, good stuff there. It's finally March, so you know what that means. It's time to say top of the morning to the most famous St. Patrick's Day Shamrock Shavers, our new sponsor, Manscaped. Don't just chase rainbows this March. Make your own pot of gold and groom your little leprechaun with the leaders in below-the-kilt care. Clear your clover forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com and use code BBOC for 20% off plus free shipping. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is your new lucky charm, and it's fully waterproof. So go ahead, shave by the misty moors, shave under a waterfall, shave while betting a second half total. The world is yours. Get 20% off and free shipping with code BBOC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code BBOC at manscaped.com. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your hairy little leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped.